Conservatives are still reeling from the election losses 2 nights ago, and it was brutal, and we'll get into all the fallout from the people on the ground up to the White House, especially the voting demographic that Republicans have ignored that we really need to pay attention to. But there is a little good news. Here's just a little sugar for your morning coffee. After decade upon decade of inane, insufferable, left-wing babble, Hollywood stars are finally promising to shut up about politics. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. Is having a boyfriend embarrassing now? It is the Vogue article that has taken over TikTok. And the Zoomer ladies are totally right, though not for the reasons they think. Before we get to any of that, I have to tell you about MediShare. Text the word Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L, to 70246. There's no way around it. When it comes to healthcare, people are frustrated with how much it costs. I'm frustrated. I was having this conversation with sweet little Elisa yesterday. The usual ways that we have been doing this have only gotten more expensive, more complicated, more aggravating. That is why MediShare is such a welcome relief. It's called healthcare sharing. It's different and it works. More than 1 million Americans are now doing it. MediShare has been a great option for more than 30 years. So you could save thousands a year on your healthcare and you could be happy. Can you imagine that? It's hard to imagine. If you've heard about it and you want to know more, there are 2 easy options. Go to medishare.com/Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L, medishare.com/Michael, or you take your phone, you send a text, and you will get information that could really help you and your family out. Text the word Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L. Did I tell you how to spell it? M-I-C-H-A-E-L to 70246. Get the facts. That is Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L to 70246. You will get the link. Text Michael to 70246. Right now. Do it. Pick up that phone if you don't have it already. 70246, text Michael. Just a little sugar for your coffee, okay? We'll get into all the substantive stuff. There are a lot of really important lessons that came out of election night that we're now beginning to see in the data. But look, here's a little silver lining. And it's somewhat improbable, actually, after the Democrats did so well this time. Hollywood, finally, after so many years of all the stupid political babbling, Hollywood says it wants to get out of the politics business. And there's a very curious reason why. Here is Jennifer Lawrence explaining her position.
You have been politically outspoken in the past. Mm-hmm. In the first Trump administration, you had a lot to say. I'm curious how you feel about talking out now.
I don't really know if I should. I think the first Trump administration was so wild and just how can we let this stand? I felt like I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off. But as we've learned, election after election, celebrities do not make a difference whatsoever on who people vote for. And so then what am I doing? I'm just sharing my opinion on something that's going to just add fuel to a fire that's ripping the country apart.
Oh, I love this. This is so introspective. Seriously, I'm not mocking her. This is great. She said, look, I used to talk about politics all the time. I drive myself crazy. And I'm going to stop, not because I don't think it's my place, not because I just want to go entertain and go, dance and sing. And no. So I'm going to shut up about it because it's having no effect. It used to have an effect. There was a time, including when I was a young boy, that politics, or rather celebrities speaking out on politics, even though they didn't know anything, George Clooney doesn't know anything about politics, but when they would speak out, that would move some voters. And increasingly that isn't happening. The question then that Jennifer Lawrence doesn't answer is why. And I will tell you why. The reason why is because we now have celebrities whose entire job it is to talk about politics. And that was not always the case. Used to be you'd get, the star of some movie or something would be asked about politics in some interview, and he or she would babble about it. And it would almost always be for the left. And people would listen. Now, There's just been a process of specialization. Maybe this just happens in capitalism. You've seen it happen in academia. Used to be, you'd have a professor would talk about philosophy, maybe ancient philosophy, maybe modern philosophy, but they would teach the general courses or history. They'd cover American history, and then over the years, you know this if you've ever been to any kind of university class, it becomes so hyper specialized that the professor says, well, I'm the world's leading expert in the history of Aboriginal pygmies in the eastern part of Uganda from 1921 to August of 1921. And I'm not the leading expert on that. I'm the leading expert on those pygmies who themselves were experts in Indo-Iberian literature about trees. And that's it. And I'm only being slightly hyperbolic. They're so hyper-specialized. You see this throughout the university. You see this in corporate America. Very few generalists anymore. Very few people who can do lots of different jobs. They're people who hyper-specialize on one, not just one department, but one aspect of the department, one platform, one task. It's just all these hyper-specialization. That's happened in celebrity even. When I was a kid, when many of you were kids, though not the younger audience, there were Hollywood celebrities divided between movie stars and TV stars. Movie stars more prestigious. And then there were political analysts who were guys who wore, ties, and they would go on the handful of news shows and they would talk about elections and they would talk about politicians and they would talk about policy and they would debate all that sort of stuff. Now, though, in recent years, and I guess I'm part of it, that has given way to a different kind of political influencer who is not the guy who's obsessing over policy or candidates or even elections, is just someone who, and doesn't even go on the news show, just kind of has his own stream, has his own platform, has his own whatever, and talks about kind of weird, abstract stuff. And maybe doesn't even concern himself with actual politicians or elections, but they're nevertheless political influencers. And they're the ones who are offering opinions on any matter of politics. And I think basically what happened in the celebrity industry is the movie stars got crowded out from that. People stopped paying attention. Specialization strikes entertainment too. And this new class of celebrity is not the same thing as George Will and Charles Krauthammer, or even Bill Buckley or Gore Vidal. It's this different kind of thing. It's got a little bit of the glam of Hollywood. It's got a little bit of the lifestyle influencing. It's got a little bit of politics, maybe a touch of philosophy, maybe a little religion, though. Used to be that the political analysts didn't really talk about religion. Now it's got a little bit of that, and it's different. Jennifer Lawrence, she lost her job. She still has her movie job, but she lost her politics job. So did all of Hollywood. That's a good thing. Very, very good thing. Okay. That's all the good news I have for you. That's almost all of it, because we have to get to the election and what to learn from the election so that we don't repeat it in the midterms and in 2028. So we'll turn to part of that class of inane political babblers. Rachel Welch, she was the girl who went viral for saying that Charlie Kirk was an awful piece of shit, and just recently, within a week or two ago. And no one really on the right had ever heard of her, but she sat down with serious people. The Democrat leader in the House, Hakeem Jeffries, a bunch of members of Congress. She's part of that class, albeit on the left-wing side of the class. So at the Zohran victory rally, she's standing around with Mehdi Hasan, who used to be a TV journalist. Now he's just one of these bomb throwers on the far left, and other people. And she made the claim that Americans have no culture.
That's the coolest thing about Americans. Americans have no culture except for multiculturalism.
Well said.
And we need to teach people how to embrace that. These crusty white people need to learn how to embrace it.
Okay, so she said this, and her entire side believes this. And actually, there are people even on the squishy part of the right who believe this. Of all the crazy, insane things this woman's ever said, this one is very widespread. It's very mainstream. America has no culture. 2 claims, really. 3 claims, I'm sorry. The first one is America has no culture except for multiculturalism, which is inanity. That's just to say America has no culture. So other cultures have to fill it in. We've heard this over the years. Usually it's white people have no culture. They mean this in much the same way. that America has no culture other than multiculturalism. Now, of course, this raises a question. What was the American culture before multiculturalism? Multiculturalism is relatively new. It's like 4 or 5 decades old. What about before that time? What about before mass migration? What about before the discouragement of assimilation? We didn't have anything? Because we invented like everything out of the last 100 years that's ever been invented, 200 years. We have dominated in culture. Our culture is spread throughout the world. Our products have spread throughout the world. We're the global hegemon. We didn't have anything. There was no culture of the Pilgrims on the Mayflower. It was just multiculturalism. They were just waiting for someone to arrive from Pakistan to, give them tikka masala. Fill in the void, the vacuum of culture. There was no culture of the Founding Fathers, the colonial era. There's no culture in the 19th century. The cowboys and the industrial titans, and there's no culture. There's no apple pie and hot dogs and fireworks on the 4th of July. There's none of that. The culture of Broadway, the culture of jazz, the culture of baseball, the culture. No culture beyond multiculturalism. And follow up, crusty old white people need to figure that out. Kind of ironic because Miss Welch is white and of a certain age. Says they got to figure that out. And so what is this really? It's not telling us anything about American culture. It is telling us about the left and really about the mainstream left. And that is that they hate their home. That is, I think, the defining feature of the left in America today, if not always, which is a self-hatred and an oikophobia, to use the word of the late, great Sir Roger Scruton, a hatred of home. And we know this. The libs hate their home. I want to move out. I hate you, Dad. Of course, there's all that. But that's no longer just a fringe view, and it's not just petulant little children. That is the mainstream left-wing view. This is why at their rallies, you're hard-pressed to find an American flag. You find a Palestine flag, you find a BLM flag, you find a gay flag, you find a Mexican flag, you won't find an American flag. That's the argument. It's this purely negative force to say that is endeavoring to make its description true, to hollow out an American culture, to erase and replace any vestige of what would be American culture, and in so doing to create a vacuum that actually does fill in with the cultures of the rest of the world. That's where we're at. And the crusty old white people have to get along with that. And this is only a more explicit statement of what the mainstream left has said for years, going back to political science papers on the coalition of the ascendant, on how white people need to just disappear, how they'll decline as the demographic majority. This country was 95% white or something, and now we're approaching a place where it's still about 60% white, but it's going to decline below 50% soon enough, if nothing changes. And the left is celebrating that. So it's not that the right is claiming this. The left is openly calling for this and openly celebrating that. That explains a little bit of an uptick, especially among younger people, in recognizing that, well, if every other race and every other group gets identity politics, maybe they should have some identity politics too. And even beyond the explicitly racial appeal, the suggestion that every culture is great except for the American culture, which doesn't even exist anyway, is going to create a reaction among Americans, patriotic Americans, that says, well, hold on. If other people are going to be chauvinists for their culture, maybe I should be a chauvinist for my culture. And there are ways that can be bad and can go off the rails, and there are dangers inherent in all of that. But those reactions are not wrong in themselves. Those reactions are, in fact, the only rational conclusion that you can come to, given these political circumstances. And so I think the appropriate way to appeal to that is one, to acknowledge that is valid, and to ground all of one's reactions to it in the heart of their problem, which is they hate their home and we love our home. So that's the way to offer something positive about it. We love our home. I love my home. I love my hometown. I love my family, my literal home. And I love my extended family. And I love, J.D. Vance talked about this. He saw this coming. He talked about the Ordo Amoris, the hierarchy of love, the order of loves, the Ordo Caritatis. That's where we have to begin. And I think that offers a positive vision. And it also prevents people from spinning off the rails and going in all sorts of bad and unjust directions like the left has done. You have to acknowledge, no, these, It is perfectly rational. It's perfectly good, especially amid this kind of political environment, to say, no. We want something different. And we want to offer a positive version. You might hate your home. I love my home. You might hate your family, your tribe, your people, your whatever. I like them. And actually it's your hatred of your own and your hatred of yourself leads to all manner of cruelty and hostility and antagonism toward everybody else. But my love, a proper love of one's own, my proper love of myself and of my home and of my people and of my family and everything actually spills over into an appropriate love for other types of people too. That's it. That's the only reaction. But the stakes could not be clearer. The reaction since Charlie was murdered has clarified a lot of things. And I believe people are beginning to recognize the existential threats that have come from the left, politically existential threats to America as a political community. That is really key. That's another little silver lining. We're learning from the terrible election a couple nights ago. We're also learning about one demographic group that we are not speaking to as Republicans. And the Democrats are speaking to this group. It's like the one group they're speaking to. They've lost a lot of the electorate across races and sexes and geographic locations, but there is one part of the electorate that they are speaking to that Republicans are not speaking to. We'll get to that in 1 second. First, though, speaking of American culture, I want to tell you about Hillsdale College. Go to hillsdale.edu/Knowles, Knowles. There's a lot of confusion in the world today. Have you noticed? It's hard to find clarity and truth. A new Hillsdale College miniseries on colonial America offers a powerful reminder that the first Americans were searching for the same thing. They believed faith and reason revealed God's design for the world, and that understanding became the foundation of their bravery and their freedom. It is a stirring look at the ideas that still hold us together today. Hillsdale College has created a fascinating 6-part documentary series where their professors explore the religious, political, cultural, and economic ideas that shaped America's unique character during the colonial period. You will discover why the idea of liberty, especially religious liberty, drove settlers to risk everything crossing the Atlantic, how early Americans built local governments to rule and protect themselves, and why America became a place where virtue could lead to peace and prosperity. While most of us know about the Declaration of Independence as the birth of our nation, this course digs deeper into something a little more fundamental, the forging of the American character that made the revolution possible in the first place, and why reclaiming that character matters more than ever today. This is a hobby horse of mine. I talk about the Mayflower a lot. Mayflower, great cigar brand. Best part, this mini-series is completely free and easy to access. If you want to learn more, Hillsdale has over 40 other free online courses on everything. Right now, go to hillsdale.edu/Knowles, Knowles, to enroll. No cost, easy to get started. That is hillsdale.edu/Knowles to enroll for free. hillsdale.edu/Knowles. Zohran Mamdani. Zohran, the queer caliph. He's not personally queer. He just has a queer politics. The Muslim communist who's the mayor of New York. As I told you, I think the Muslim part of his identity is relatively minor. I think the communist part, the rote leftist millennial part, is really, really prominent. I think this was proved again. One line from his speech we didn't talk about yesterday should send a chill up your spine, and that is on the role of government.
We will prove that there is no problem too large for government to solve and no concern too small for it to care about.
Very, very scary statement. And weirdly enough, the second part of the statement, I think, is even more terrifying than the first part. They're both pretty bad. There is no concern too small for the government to care about. That's really chilling, because a lot of what voters reacted against with woke leftism 2-3 years ago was the idea that the government was going to come in and say, hey, you are not even allowed to dress your child. You're not allowed to call your child by his proper pronouns. You're not allowed to educate your child. You're not allowed to do any of that. We're going to tell you how to do that. They've been trying to invade these small concerns for a long time. Going back almost 15 years, the Democrats outlawed certain light bulbs. The nice warm light bulbs, they outlawed those because the sun monster was going to kill us over the light bulbs. And they made us have these disgusting flashing, hideous, cold light bulbs filled with mercury, actually, which was all bad for the environment, bad for you. And happily, we kind of got rid of that. But now then corporate America just came in and got rid of the nice light bulbs, and we have the ugly ones again. But obviously, the left has been very concerned with invading all these private spaces. That's very, very, very scary. The flip side of that is there's no problem too big for the government to solve. Now, I want to be totally clear here. I am not a small government conservative. I think that's a silly phrase. I think it's meaningless in a country of 320 million people that is actually the global hegemon that spans from one ocean to another ocean. I think that's very silly in a country that has military operations around the globe, that has something called AFRICOM. We have a command for Africa. Okay, we're not going to have a small government. And a small government might be a dream of libertarians or anarchists. That's not the dream of conservatives. We want a proper government, an appropriate government, a government that knows its own boundaries and limitations. So no, I don't want a federal government that's deciding your light bulbs and telling you to put your little boy in a dress. However, I believe in federalism. Conservatives tend to believe in federalism, subsidiarity. So you want maybe the state government to have a little bit more of a role in that. You want the county government to have a little bit more of a role. You want the municipal government to have maybe even more of a role in defining, being closer to these local cultures and helping to shape them. I know this is going to be heresy for the libertarians listening. I love HOAs. I love HOAs. I hate neighborhoods that do not have HOAs. Are you still listening? How many listeners did I just lose for saying that? I love them. You know why? Because I drive through the neighborhoods without the HOAs, and there's ugly architecture. And sometimes they tear down beautiful homes and they put up ugly black cube monstrosities. And they have all stupid sorts of signs. In this house, we believe in communism and Islam and the sun monster, whatever. They put up, it's just so, it's horrible. It's anarchy. Whereas in my HOA, I'm not allowed to do crazy things to my house. Good. You know what that means? All the houses in my neighborhood are really beautiful. I'm not allowed to have some stupid political sign in my yard. Good. Maybe I don't even want to put one up, but you know what that means? That means my neighbors can't put them up either. I don't have to deal with it. Helps to maintain, it's a politically mixed neighborhood, but it maintains order, propriety, a sense of community, shared purpose. It points to the common good. I love it. Okay? So I want appropriate government. My HOA doesn't come in and tell me what kind of eggs I have to put in my fridge. Zohran Mamdani wants to do that. In fact, he wants the government to take over the grocery stores. And he doesn't want you to have your own house. He doesn't want you to have your own apartment, but he wants the government to take that over too. He has openly advocated for like communes, okay? Really scary stuff. And then to the first part, when he says, there's no problem too big for government. What about like evil? What about like the presence of evil in the world and a fallen culture? A fallen society. I think that's too big. I think original sin is too big for government to solve. Every utopian and totalitarian movement throughout history has thought that it could solve that. Zohran Mamdani is promising to solve that. I believe that poverty, generally speaking, is too big a problem for the government to solve. It can ameliorate it. It can work on it a little bit. It can soften the edges. But I believe, call me crazy, I think the poor will always be with us. I think there are facts of the fallen world the government cannot fix. But communists, and to some degree socialists, and just secular materialists, frankly, liberals post-Enlightenment, all, if you scratch them deep enough, they agree with that. There's no problem, at the very least, there's no problem that a proper political order can't solve. And so for the left, it's the big government. And for the right, it's the magical, invisible hand of the free market is going to solve all the problems. If only we would let the free market grace us with its beneficence. But no, there are problems. There are certain problems that are too big for any government. And there's certain issues that are too small for most government. This is dystopian. Zohran Mamdani is, I believe, who he's told us he was. And New York has done this before. They've elected Democratic Socialists before. It didn't work out. David Dinkins didn't work out very well and took Giuliani the 90s to fix it. And then Mike Bloomberg kind of maintained it, and then it started to fall apart again. But we're seeing that. And I hate to say I told you so that I was right about this, but it's true. Say what you will about the Muslims, but if this guy were some ardent religious Muslim, he would at least recognize that there are certain things the government can't quite do. There is something of the transcendent out there. Now, how did he get elected? He got elected because there is one demographic group that he spoke to, that Democrats are speaking to, that the Republicans don't speak to and don't even really want to speak to. We'll get to that one second. First, though, I want to tell you about preborn. Go to preborn.com/Knowles. A recent Danish study found something deeply, deeply concerning. Just 1 year after an abortion, women were 50% more likely to need psychiatric treatment and 87% more likely to experience personality or behavioral disorders. These are not just numbers, not just statistics. They represent real women facing real struggles. That is why preborn takes a different approach. When a woman walks through their doors, uncertain and afraid, she finds something she may not have expected: support. Through an ultrasound, she meets her baby for the first time, and suddenly, what felt like an impossible situation starts to look different. Preborn doesn't just stop there, though. When a woman chooses life, they walk alongside her for up to 2 years, providing practical help like maternity clothes, diapers, as well as ongoing counseling and emotional support. It's care for the whole person, addressing her physical needs, her mental health, and her future. As you think about year-end giving, consider the greatest investment you could make, the gift of life. Dial pound 250, say keyword baby. It's pound 250, keyword baby, or visit preborn.com/Knowles. This is an organization that I personally support. I encourage you to give what you can. All gifts are tax deductible. Preborn is a 5-star rated charity. Preborn.com/Knowles to make a difference for generations to come. Really good piece. Really good piece from John Carney. He's the econ and finance editor for Breitbart. Co-author of Breitbart Business Digest, but this actually was in Commonplace. You can go read it on Commonplace. It's really good. It's called Zohran's Park Slope Populists. My parents lived in Park Slope before I was born, and before it was a really hot neighborhood of yuppies. It used to be kind of a crummy neighborhood. And I lived the first, a few months or so of my life in Sheepshead Bay, way out in the areas that are not so into Zohran, a little more traditional New York areas. But Park Slope, Bushwick, Williamsburg, these areas, they love Mamdani. And these areas are not populated by the working class. They're not populated by, the Yemeni bodega owner or whatever that he was talking to in the victory speech. No, they are, I'll just quote John Carney here. The Park Slope, Bushwick, Mamdani supporters are not in any meaningful sense working class, but they are not exactly elite either. They belong to a group that has become increasingly central to American politics: the downwardly mobile professionals. The overproduced graduates of our university system, raised to expect middle-class stability and discovering instead that the system has little to offer beyond high rent and burnout. Their rage is real, and if the right wants to be serious about building a majoritarian coalition around economic renewal, which I thought was what we were all about, that's what a lot of the right-wing populism was about, it ought to start by understanding that rage, not mocking it. It's the consequence of the snowflake generation. We used to talk about the millennial snowflakes who are on college campuses. And well, now they're not kids anymore. Now they're in their late 20s, their 30s, and they have university degrees. And we on the right, we want to make fun of them. And we say, you got some dumb degree in, lesbian dance theory, and that was a waste of money. And yeah, sure. But they're deeply in debt. They did not want to become lesbian dance theory teachers. They actually went to school to become lawyers, or to become middle managers at some corporation, or to become marketing executives, or to work a white-collar job, to become accountants, to do these things. And the life that used to promise, that they were promised, that they invested a lot of money into, or that their parents invested a lot of money into, or more importantly, that they took out a lot of money in debt to pay for, it's not paying off. That doesn't really exist anymore as it used to. They're real irritated about it. And there's going to be an impulse on the right to say, yeah, well, screw them. You shouldn't have done it. You should have gotten a job. You should have studied a practical major. You should have gone to trade school. You should have been an entrepreneur. Yeah, okay. That's an important demographic, because that demographic is supposed to be the bourgeois. And there are a lot of bougie people in Park Slope and Williamsburg. But the bourgeois can be and should be a good right-wing coalition, a good right-wing demographic, I should say. They should be. They're the middle class, the people who want to be in the middle class, the kind of responsible strivers who just want the good American life. Not the ones who are dropping out of Harvard like Mark Zuckerberg and becoming billionaires, or the ones at Stanford like Peter Thiel becoming billionaires, it's not them. And it's not the bodega owners. It's that middle-class professional that has been before a very important Republican demographic, conservative demographic. It could be again. But Republicans have to speak to their concerns, because if this election the other night, and it's New York, it's different from Peoria and the rest of the country, but that demographic is going to become more prominent, not less, in future years, especially as the boomers die. That demographic is going to become more angry, not less angry, especially as AI begins to change the labor market, as mass migration continues to change the labor market, as global economic shifts, maybe moving toward more of a bipolar world between the US and China, not just American hegemony. It's going to be a big problem. And it is just a descriptive fact. Republicans need to speak to them and not dismiss their concerns and make that group feel that they are on their side, because they are so bereft of support. I'm not cry over the Wellesley graduate or whatever. I know I'm not losing sleep over it. I'm not crying my eyes out. Some of you want to say it's the world's smallest violin, but they are going to matter. And a Muslim communist won their votes because a communist said, "Hey, bourgeois, middle class America, I'll give you a better deal than the right will." The right did not counter that effectively. The right has to counter that. Very, very important. Now, about young people, a much more important issue. Is having a boyfriend embarrassing now? I did not read this article. I am not a subscriber to Vogue. I am not on TikTok. Like, I have a TikTok, I guess, but my team runs it. I don't have the app. Is having a boyfriend embarrassing now? By Chanté Joseph in Vogue. I was turned on to this article, which has gone viral on social media, by young Professor Jacob, my associate producer. He said, this was a big one. If you could survive this, if your relationship could survive this article going viral on social media, you guys are going to get married. What is so embarrassing about having a boyfriend? It's just first few lines. If someone so much as says, "my boyf," on social media, they're muted. There's nothing I hate more than following someone for fun, only for their content to become my boyfriendified suddenly. It's probably because for so long it felt like we've lived in boyfriend land, and then it goes on to complain that a woman is only defined by her boyfriend. It never goes the other way. No man defines himself online by his girlfriend, and the women need to be girl bosses and blah, blah, blah. However, the article goes on, more recently, there's been a pronounced shift in the way people showcase their relationships online. Far from fully hard-launching romantic partners, straight women are opting for subtler signs. A hand on a steering wheel, clinking glasses at dinner, or the back of someone's head. Or the more confusing end, you have faces blurred out of wedding pictures or entire professionally edited videos with the fiancé conveniently cropped out of all shots. Women are obscuring their partner's face when they post, as if they want to erase the fact that they exist without actually not posting them. So what gives? Okay, it goes on. I'm not going to read the whole article. You can read it yourself. I will tell you why this is happening. I'll tell you exactly why this is. And it's not because the women are just selfish and narcissistic on social media. They are also. Women should not be on social media. I discourage it. We've talked a lot about trad wives in recent years. It is not possible to be a trad wife if you are on social media posting selfies on Instagram. You can't. It's not possible. That is a contradiction in behavior. However, it's not just that. It's not just that social media makes us all self-centered. There's a very practical reason why women don't want to post their boyfriends on social media. And it is because boyfriends are temporary and social media is forever. That's why. It is our modern hookup culture, our modern culture that discourages marriage on IMAX. That's why. And I think, got to give credit for, I'm on the side of the women here. I don't think women should be posting about their boyfriend on social media. Because I think these women are not posting about their current boyfriend on social media, not just to appease their own pride. It's actually for their next boyfriend. Because no guy wants to think about the other guys that have dated his girlfriend or his wife. No guy. I don't care if you've dated for 10 years. I don't care if you've been married for 50 years. Yeah, I remember my grandfather, my grandma and grandpa were married for almost 70 years before my grandpa died. If you brought up the guys that would try to date my grandmother when they were broken up a little bit. They dated in high school and they broke up a little bit. If you brought him up, he could be 90 years old. He would get angry. As well he should. No one wants to think about that. And this is a technological problem or magnification of a social problem. You know, in the old days, before there was social media, maybe a woman dates a few guys, then gets married. You don't have to think about it again. Now, the internet is forever. Even if you delete the picture from social media, it's still like on the internet. It's still there. It's very, very wise. You should not post pictures of your boyfriend. But what does this tell us about our behavior? I think what it's expressing is women would rather get married or stay single. But you should post pictures of your husband. Maybe. I don't know if you're on social media, or of your spouse generally, but not of your boyfriend or girlfriend. A recognition that we shouldn't spill all of these temporary moments of our lives. One of the most insidious aspects of the internet, especially social media, is they make permanent things that ought to be fleeting. You go out some wild night, you're taking stupid pictures, posting them online. Those are things that might be fun in the moment that you're going to want to forget probably 10 years from now. That's it. It's like we got to take the yuppies seriously if we want to beat the Mamdanis of the world. We got to take the ladies seriously. This is very practical stuff. I'm with you, ladies. 3 cheers to Vogue and to the Zoomer girls not posting their boyfriend. That's right. Wait for your husbands. And if you have to post an Instagram picture, that's fine. Speaking of permanent solutions, temporary problems and permanent solutions, President Trump might nuke the filibuster. We'll get to that in 1 second. First, though, speaking of weapons, I want to tell you about Stopbox USA. Go to stopboxusa.com. Use code Michael Knowles. Owning a handgun for self-defense comes with serious responsibility. You need it secure, but you also need it accessible when it matters most. Too often, that means choosing between locking it away or leaving it out, vulnerable to kids, guests, or intruders. That's the problem Stopbox USA set out to solve. They nailed it with the Stopbox Pro. It's 100% mechanical, which I absolutely love. It is keyless. It is a battery-free lockbox that gives you instant controlled access to your firearm. No electronics, no keys, no codes required. Just simple. A patented 5-button locking system that responds only to your unique input. It's fast, it's intuitive, it's built for muscle memory, so you're not thinking, you are reacting. When seconds matter, that makes all the difference. I love it. In fact, I have a Stopbox Pro in my office here. With the Stopbox Pro, you do not have to trade safety for speed or peace of mind for readiness. Your firearm stays secure, but always within reach. For a limited time, our listeners get 15% off at Stopbox when you use code Michael Knowles, all one word, MICHAELKNWLES at checkout. Head to stopboxusa.com, use code Michael Knowles for 15% off your entire order. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. We have fewer than 2,000 DailyWire lifetime memberships remaining. Turns out, having all access benefits for life with no renewals is something that everyone wants. Who could have guessed it? Here are your options. You could buy one while they're still available, or you could win mine. That's right. I have my very own lifetime membership to give away. I made it very easy to enter. Here's how you do it. You download the free DailyWire Plus app in the App Store. You open it. You tap follow under my picture. And that's it. That's easy because all those other pictures, they're ugly. You want my picture, okay? Then you're entered. Who knows? I could be calling you to give you my personal lifetime membership. But before any of that happens, you need to download the DailyWire Plus app and follow me inside it to enter to win. It happened again. You know what happens. They send me the comments in the morning. I look at them. I read my favorite comment, whatever. But I don't really look at the names. And yet again, the Drummers Workshop Norm's music. We need to give him a prize for the most comment. I don't do it intentionally. He said yesterday, New York City, November 5th, 2025, a day that will live in intifada. It's good. It's good. I'm a sucker for a good pun. Also, I have to make an apology. It takes a very handsome man to admit when he's wrong. It's not that I also was right about this, but I told you, when was this? A few days ago, a week ago? I said, we have this amazing new Advent calendar, or Advent candle set called the Lux Adventus set. 3 candles and then 1 differently colored candle for the 4 weeks of Advent when we meditate the 4 last things, death, judgment, heaven, and hell. Beautiful. Smells like a nice pine tree. It was so great. I said, order it now. It will sell out. Sold out instantly. I did my best to get a restock. I thought I would be able to sell. I thought I'd be able to stock up a lot more. We sold out. And some of you called. Actually, you picked up the phone and you called and you yelled at some of our staff members here because it sold out too quickly. I'm sorry. I wish we could have made more. This is just to remind you. So I'm very happy for everyone who got the Luke's Adventures set. Sorry for those who didn't. Advent will come around next year too. This is just a reminder because I have some cool products in the works that I know a lot of people are going to want on the cigar front, on the candle front, on many other fronts. But when I tell you, you got to believe me. I wouldn't mislead you. When I tell you, you have to order like right now. I mean, these things could be gone in minutes. So anyway, I'm sorry. Next year, we'll try to make a lot more. I thought we had a lot of candles, and we did. We'll have a lot more next year. Okay? All right? I'm sorry. Speaking of permanent solutions, President Trump might nuke the filibuster. What is the filibuster? The filibuster says that a bare majority in the Senate does not get to do whatever it wants, that actually you have to get up to 60 votes, and that means that the party that's in power doesn't have total power, and it means that the minority party still can do things and block things. And there has been talk from both parties for many years now, ramping up, that they're going to nuke the filibuster, get rid of it so a bare majority can do whatever it wants. And it's usually the conservatives who say this is a bad idea, but the Democrats have pulled back from the brink at times too. We've weakened the filibuster for various nominees, judges, whatever, but it still exists. It's why the government is shut down right now. Why is the government shut down when the Republicans don't want it shut down and the Republicans control the White House, the House of Representatives, and the Senate? Because there are just enough Democrats there to gum it all up. And there are enough Democrats there that with the filibuster, they can't reopen the government. Trump says we got to nuke it. Here's what he says before I weigh in. It's time for Republicans to do what they have to do, and that's terminate the filibuster. He said this at a lunch at the White House. It's the only way you can do it. If you don't terminate the filibuster, you'll be in bad shape. We won't pass any legislation. We have to keep the country open. The way we're going to do it this afternoon is terminate the filibuster. It's possible you're not going to do that, and I'll go by your wishes. You're very smart people. We're good friends, but I think it's a tremendous mistake, really. It would be a tragic mistake, actually. It's time. It's time. This is the key. This is the key. A lot of what we've been talking about in recent weeks has to do with timing. You know the key to comedy, right? You know the key to comedy? Timing. It's timing. Timing is really important. There are ideologues who want to say that one policy prescription must be true for all time. You saw this with a lot of the Never Trumpers. You see this with a lot of people in all factions of the right. And they're wrong, because politics is applying eternal principles to constantly changing circumstances. So it's true. Today, Republicans are kind of pro-tariff. For decades, they were very, very anti-tariff. Before that, though, they were pro-tariff. And actually, the party was founded on tariffs. Does that mean that one side of that argument is always wrong and one side is always right? No. It's that sometimes call for tariffs. Some circumstances, sometimes our geopolitical adversaries put us in a position where the best course of action to advance the good of the country is a tariff. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's to remove a tariff. Sometimes you need more migration. Sometimes you need a lot less migration. There's no hypocrisy there. There's no heresy. Some of these people think it's like heresy. It's not. It's prudence, which is the chief political virtue. There was a time when I would have said Republicans should not nuke the filibuster. That time has passed. That time has passed because when the Democrats get back into power, they will nuke it. I'm pretty confident of that. They almost did it last time, except there were, two? It was Manchin and Sinema who basically held it up. Manchin and Sinema are gone. So they're going to do it. There was a time when Democrats would not elect a Muslim communist mayor of New York. That time is gone. There was a time when Democrats would not openly celebrate the assassination of a right-wing debater on college campuses. That time is gone. There's a time that Jay Jones's texts would have eliminated him from the race immediately. That time was like 5 years ago, and now that time is gone. Principled conservatives who have long, rightly defended the filibuster, I think should recognize what time it is, recognize that time is gone. Because whichever party does nuke the filibuster is going to have a tremendous advantage. Whoever does it first has a tremendous advantage. And for a while, we could kind of count on the other party not doing it. That's over, guys. That's over. They would celebrate your death. And they've told us that repeatedly for over a month. Nuke the filibuster. Reopen the government. Pass any legislation. Get the upper advantage. We're in a different political situation. We can either die politically fighting the last political war, as a lot of conservatives are inclined to do. That reluctance, that caution, that patience is a good conservative feature until it's not. We can either do that or we can win. I say we win. I'm with Trump. I say we win. I'm with the more in tune parts of the conservative movement that says, guys, we're in a different era now. I'm with cocaine Mitch McConnell, who says the winners go to Washington, the losers go home. Okay, now speaking of political hostility, a clip has gone viral from the Shannon Sharp podcast of a black guy, I don't know which guy, but some guy, he might be famous, saying that he would track down the descendants of the family that bought his ancestors, the white family, and show up at their house. We'll get to that. We don't have time to get to that today. We'll get to that tomorrow, because today is Theology Thursday. We got some hardcore Bible trivia to embarrass me. The rest of the show continues now. You do not want to miss it. Become a member. Use code Knowles, KNWLES at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.